"You're a burden on this family," my sister-in-law said, laughing like she'd just told a joke. "Honestly, we'd be better off if you just disappeared." My brother didn't correct her, neither did my parents. "My name is Maeve. I'm 31 years old, I'm a registered nurse, and for the better part of a decade, I was the invisible infrastructure holding my family together. Not the kind of infrastructure anyone thanks, the kind that gets taken for granted until the lights go out." We were sitting in my parents' living room in Columbus, Ohio, the Sunday before Thanksgiving. My brother Sean had driven up from Cincinnati with his wife Brittany, the woman who just said that, and my parents were perched on the couch smiling like she'd said something charming. Like maybe she had a point. Brittany always had a point. She had a point about how I talked too much at family dinners, and a point about how I should dress nicer if I wanted to attract a man, and a point about how my apartment was too small for company, which was rich, considering she and Sean had moved into a 3-bedroom house with my parents' help and still hadn't paid a cent of it back. I looked around the room. My father was sipping his beer. My mother was folding a dish towel she'd been folding for the last 3 minutes. Sean was looking at his phone. No one said anything. I laughed once, short and quiet, and went back to my food. That's what I always did. I swallowed it. I had been swallowing things in that family for so long that silence had become my resting state. I was the oldest, the responsible one, the one who got her nursing degree while Sean changed majors 3 times and my parents paid for every credit hour without blinking. The one who moved back home for 8 months when my father had his knee surgery and couldn't work, who covered their mortgage for 2 of those months without being asked and without being paid back, who drove my mother to every doctor's appointment for a year when she was managing her diabetes diagnosis and kept telling me she was fine, just fine. I was never fine, but that wasn't something anyone in that family had space to notice. The thing about being reliable is that it trains people. They stop worrying about you, they stop asking, they just assume you'll handle it, whatever it is, and when something breaks, they turn to the same way you turn on a faucet. Expecting water. Sean had done it his whole life. He was 3 years younger, louder, funnier at parties. My parents lit up when he walked into a room in a way they never quite did with me, and I'd made peace with that a long time ago. What I hadn't made peace with was the debt. 3 years earlier, Sean had called me in a panic. He and Brittany were buying a house and they were $5,000 short of the down payment. Could I cover it? Just temporarily. He'd pay me back by January. It was October. I said yes. January came and went. So did the next January. I brought it up once gently, and Sean told me I was being petty. That family didn't keep score, and my mother called later that evening to tell me I'd upset him. I didn't bring it up again. The $5,000 was the biggest piece, but not the only piece. There was the $2,200 I'd lent my mother when her car needed a transmission, the $800 I covered for Sean's lawyer when he got a DUI in 2021, the $400 I quietly sent when Brittany texted me asking if I could help with their electric bill, and please don't tell Sean, she asked. I never did tell him. She never paid me back. By the time of that Thanksgiving living room conversation, I had calculated privately that my family owed me somewhere north of $9,000. I had never written it down anywhere. Keeping it in my head felt less real, which was easier. The night I got home from that Sunday dinner, I sat in my car in the parking garage of my building for 20 minutes before going inside. I wasn't crying. I was doing something colder than crying. I was thinking. There's a version of this story where I confronted them, got loud, sent a group text at midnight, demanded my money back or announced I was cutting them off with some kind of speech. That's not the version that happened. I'm a nurse. I work in the ICU. I know that the systems that keep a person alive are quiet until they stop. Nobody narrates the ventilator, it just breathes. And when it gets switched off, the room doesn't immediately know. There's a delay, a strange silence before anyone understands what's changed. I went upstairs and I called my best friend Dana, who had watched me navigate my family for years and had been very patient about it. "Maeve," she said, when I finished explaining what Brittany had said, "I've been waiting for you to be done. Are you done?" I told her I thought I might be. "Okay," she said. So what does done look like? I didn't have an answer that night, but I started building one. The first thing I did was talk to my bank. I had a joint savings account with my mother, something we'd set up when I moved back home to help with my father's recovery, meant to be temporary, still sitting there 3 years later with my automatic contributions going in every month. I called customer service on a Tuesday morning before my shift and asked what I needed to do to remove myself. It took 2 weeks and a notarized form. My mother didn't notice for almost a month. The second thing I did was change the beneficiary on my life insurance policy, which had listed my parents since I'd first gotten it at 24. I updated it to my friend Dana and my college roommate Priya, who were the people who actually called me on my birthday without me calling first. The third thing was the hardest. I'd been co-signed on Sean's car loan. He'd asked me 2 years ago when his credit was recovering from the DUI and he needed a vehicle to get to work. I'd said yes because I always said yes. Removing myself from a co-signed loan without the lender's agreement isn't simple. It generally requires the loan to be refinanced, which means Sean had to qualify on his own. I spoke with the loan officer, who confirmed that Sean could apply to refinance if his credit had improved. I didn't contact Sean about any of this yet. I just gathered the information. The fourth thing was the Thanksgiving question. My family had an annual tradition. My parents hosted, I brought food, I stayed late to clean up, I came early to help set up. I'd been doing this for 7 years. That year, I was working a double shift on Thanksgiving. I had not been scheduled for it. I requested it. There was one last piece that I put in place during those weeks, and it was the one I was most careful about. I'd been covering a portion of my parents' streaming subscriptions, 4 different services, because at some point in 2022, my mother had texted me asking me to just add her to my account, and it had expanded from there into a small monthly amount that I was billed for without anyone ever formally asking. I went through my credit card statements, found every recurring charge that was family related, and I flagged them one by one. I didn't cancel anything yet. I just made the list. All of this happened quietly over about 6 weeks. I went to work. I ate lunch. I called Dana on Thursdays. I texted my mother back when she texted me, normally like nothing was different, because nothing had changed yet. I was just doing what I'd always done in the ICU, reading the monitors before anyone else knew there was something to read. The first call came 3 days before Thanksgiving. It was my mother, and she wasn't calling about the holiday. She'd noticed the savings account. Maeve, I'm trying to make a transfer and something is wrong with the account. It's saying you're not on it anymore. That's right, I said. I had myself removed. Silence. Then why would you do that? Because it's been 3 years since I moved home, Mom. It was supposed to be temporary. That money helps us. I know, I said. It was helping you with my money. She got quieter in a way that meant she was switching strategies. Your father is going to be very upset when he hears this. He can call me if he wants to talk about it. She did not say he'd call. He didn't call. What called was Sean. Saturday morning, before I'd had coffee, his name lit up my phone. I almost let it go to voicemail, but I didn't. Something in me wanted to hear what register this was going to hit. What's going on with you? He said. Not hello. Good morning, I said. Mom says you took yourself off her account. And Dana told Priya, and Priya mentioned something to me at the gym about you changing some insurance thing. I made a note internally that my intentions had made it through 3 people before reaching him. That was faster than I'd expected. I'm making some adjustments, I said. What does that mean? It means what it sounds like, Maeve. His voice dropped into the tone he used when he wanted to sound reasonable. He was good at reasonable. He'd been using reasonable on me since we were teenagers. You can't just... Your family. We rely on you. I know you do, I said. The line was quiet for a moment. Are you seriously doing this before the holidays? I'm not doing anything before the holidays, I said. I'm working Thanksgiving. You'll have a nice time. He hung up before I did. The holiday came and went. Dana had me over to her apartment that evening, and her sister cooked, and I ate too much sweet potato casserole and felt, for the first time in years, like I was somewhere I was actually wanted rather than just needed. My mother left a voicemail wishing me a happy Thanksgiving. It was 23 seconds long. She mentioned she missed me. She did not mention the account. Sean did not call. December is when things accelerated. I canceled the streaming subscriptions, all of them. I got one text from my mother asking if something was wrong with Hulu. I replied, canceled it. You can set up your own account. It's $7.99 a month. She didn't respond. Then the loan. I had contacted the lender 3 weeks earlier to understand my options, and they'd confirmed that a refinance was possible. I sent Sean a single text on a Wednesday afternoon. I need to be removed from your car loan. You'll need to refinance. The lender is name. Your account number is on your statements. This needs to happen in the next 60 days. Let me know if you have questions. I put my phone face down on my kitchen counter and made dinner. He called 4 times in the next 2 hours. I let it ring. Then he texted, "You're seriously going to tank my credit over nothing? Then this is insane. You're punishing us for what Brittany said?" She was joking. Then, "Mom is crying. I hope you know that." I read all three in order and felt something settle in my chest, quiet and definite, like a door closing on its own weight. The next morning I replied, "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm removing my name from a financial liability. The 60-day window starts today." Sean did not reply. Brittany, however, did. She texted from her own number, which I hadn't expected. "I want you to know that what I said was taken out of context, and I'm really hurt that you're doing all this over a misunderstanding." I stared at that text for a while. Then I replied, "I appreciate you reaching out. I didn't make any of these decisions because of what you said. I made them because I've been carrying financial responsibilities that weren't mine to carry. I wish you both well." I don't think she expected that. She didn't respond. What I hadn't anticipated was my father. He called on a Saturday in mid-December, and unlike my mother or Sean, he didn't start angry. He started quiet, which was worse, because it meant he'd been sitting with something. "Your mother and I have been talking," he said. "Okay, we want to understand what's happening with you." I was standing at my kitchen window looking out at the parking lot. It had snowed the night before and nobody had shoveled the walk yet. "I've been making some changes to how I manage my finances," I said. "I should have done it sooner, Maeve." He paused. "We've always been there for you." I thought about the 8 months I'd spent sleeping in my childhood bedroom, driving him to physical therapy 3 times a week, paying their mortgage in October and November of 2019, without telling him because I didn't want him to feel ashamed. I thought about how he'd called Sean the man of the family at Christmas that year in a toast, while I sat next to him with a fork in my hand. "I know you love me, Dad," I said, "but love isn't the same as being there." He went quiet. "I'm not disappearing," I said. "I'm just not available the same way I was." What does that mean for Christmas? And that was the question, wasn't it? Not "are you okay?" Not "what did we do?" Not "how long have you felt this way?" What does this mean for Christmas? "I'll come for dinner," I said. "I won't be staying to clean up. And I'm not bringing food for 12 people. He said okay. He didn't sound okay, but he said it. Christmas dinner was the strangest meal I'd sat through in years. The house was exactly the same. The same tablecloth, the same dishes, the same smell of my mother's green bean casserole, and the people were exactly the same, but something had shifted underneath the surface, like furniture rearranged in the dark. Brittany was quiet. Sean was quieter. My mother kept offering me things, more food, more wine, a piece of pie, in a way that felt less like hospitality and more like she was trying to locate the version of me she recognized. I ate dinner. I talked to my father about a documentary I'd watched. I helped clear my own plate. At 7 o'clock, I stood up, got my coat, and said goodbye. Sean followed me to the door. I thought he was going to say something cutting. Instead, he looked at me for a moment with an expression I hadn't seen on him before. Not anger, not calculation, just something uncertain. "Do you actually like us?" he said. The question caught me enough that I stopped with my hand on the doorknob. "Yes," I said, "that was never the problem." He didn't say anything else. I let myself out. The loan refinance went through in January. I got a confirmation from the lender that my name had been removed. I forwarded it to Sean without comment. He replied with the thumbs up emoji. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a conversation, but it was the end of something. By spring, I had more in my savings account than I'd had at any point since I'd started my career. Not because I'd gotten a raise, though I had, but because I'd stopped hemorrhaging money into a system that treated me like a resource. I booked a trip to Portugal for June, by myself. It was the first vacation I'd taken in 4 years. My mother and I talk on the phone about once a week now. The calls are shorter. She tells me about her garden. I tell her about work. She doesn't ask me for things the way she used to. And I think on some levels she understands something has permanently changed, even if we've never had the conversation directly. My father and I had lunch in March, just the two of us. He ordered the same sandwich he always orders. We talked for almost 2 hours about nothing important, baseball, the neighborhood, a book he'd been reading. Near the end, while we were waiting for the check, he said, "I know we leaned on you too much." I looked up at him. "I'm not sure we understood what we were doing," he said, "but I know it wasn't fair. It wasn't an accounting. It wasn't a repayment plan. But it was the first time in my life that my father had looked at me and acknowledged something real, and I sat with that for a moment before I said, 'Thank you.'" He nodded. We split the check. Sean and I are cordial. Brittany I see at family events, and we are polite in the way that two people are polite when they both know the score. She doesn't ask me for favors. I don't offer. I'm not angry at any of them. I'm not sure I ever was, exactly. Anger requires a kind of sustained energy that I'd been spending on other things, on covering their shortfalls, on absorbing their anxieties, on making myself small enough to be useful and quiet enough not to be a problem. What I felt when it was all over was something closer to clarity. There's a phrase Dana used once that stayed with me. She said, "You were so busy being their solution that you forgot to be your own." I've thought about that a lot, about how long I'd been treating my own life as a draft, something to be returned to after I'd finished handling everyone else's emergencies. I'm done treating it like a draft. I leave for Portugal in 6 weeks. I've been learning a few phrases. My apartment has new furniture that I picked without consulting anyone. I have a savings account with my name only on it and a beneficiary designation that reflects the people who actually show up. I didn't stop loving my family. I stopped funding a version of them that could only exist at my expense. That distinction took me 31 years to find. I'm not losing it again.